next one.
Block 5. Hi Russell, I think I have the cure to solve corrupt politics. We've been waiting for this. Thank you very much at last. Every MP needs to be elected with a majority of 50%. Fair enough so far. However, on the ballot paper there is a none of the above option. If there are enough of these none of the above votes, then all the candidates have to go back, look at their policies and try again in 6 months. Right, go back, try again in 6 months. The key to this is they don't get paid during the 6 months. I think once you start holding MPs to ransom rather than the other way around, the country will start progressing forward very rapidly. Well, it's a novel idea, and I think we need innovations of all types. But I think what we have to do is look at more participatory democracy, where we don't just have sort of like a bank of politicians making the decisions for us over here, partitioned off, and we go, oh, God, I'll see you in 4 years. Good luck with your expense account. No, we are directly involved in communities. We're divided up into identifiable, discernible and tangible groups, and we're like, right, what are we going to do with our budget? What are we going to do? How do you want us to sort out this park? Oh, bloody hell, the bins are late. You know, it's really difficult being involved in any kind of democratic process. I'm involved in some, and let me tell you, it's hard work. But what we need to do, I think, is absolutely devolve power. The more you concentrate power, the more there is corruption. Dissolve power, spread it around. That structure, get rid of it. You need horizontal governance. That would be the solution.
So, yeah, he touched on a few really great points there. The first one being what, like the gentleman was saying, you know, which kind of goes back to what we're always talking about as far as, you know, there being strength in numbers and sending a message to the powers that be that we're not going to participate in your system as is. So when he was talking about the part on the ballot saying none of the above, you know, that's what people need to be doing, whether it's none of the above or voting for a third party that's on the ballot or writing in a third party that's not on the ballot, whatever the case may be, just anything that you can do that's kind of a dissenting voice that's sending a message to the powers that be that we're not going to go along with the system as is, we're not going to go along with the status quo, we don't believe in your system as presented, we're going to choose another option. And if there's enough of us doing that, then you remove the power from the powers that be. You take that power away from them, because at the end of the day, they need our acquiescence. They need us to go along with the system that they present.
Well, that was the appeal with Obama to the welfare recipients, that if you vote for me, that you'll receive more and more and more. Right. So, you know, they got the power from people who weren't actually contributing to the system, with the promise of you don't have to contribute to the system, just receive. So yeah, it takes people, you know, realizing the bigger picture of what's in their best interest, their children's best interest, you know, because some of those people one day are going to grow up to want to be and do something more than parasite off the system. Now, for those people that are in need of the system, that are in need of the safety net because they fell from the heights, I totally agree with a system that helps that. I'm not against that at all. And, you know, the place we're at now is a system of people that have not fallen from the heights, but just want to lie on the safety net as a hammock and swing back and forth at the expense of others. So, I mean, if any of you understood what I just said, bravo. But yeah, everybody has to be awakened. Everybody has to be completely involved with the politicians, with the politics, with whatever's getting passed, etc. And you have to do something. You can't sit back and wait for somebody else to do something. Right. You know, wipe your own butt. Be involved. Nobody's going to wipe it for you.
Right. Right. Absolutely. And, you know, just to touch on the point that you're making, you know, he really was, like I've said before, he was the carrot at the end of the stick. He was the Pied Piper that led you along to believe that if you voted for him, you were going to get a bunch of free stuff. Well, how did that work out for you? Additionally, why aren't we a society of individuals with integrity, dignity, self-respect? If I want something, I'll go after it and get it myself. I don't need the government to provide it for me. Because at the end of the day, first of all, it's not the government that's providing it to you. It's my tax dollars that's providing it to you. Additionally, when the government provides these things for you, i.e. me, the more that you take from the government, the more that you give them the control over and power over your life. And whatever they can give you, they can take away.
Yeah, it's third party. Hopefully you guys that are listening will catch up on past episodes, but you know, inviting a third person into the conversation and then paying them and, you know, deliberately getting rid of your money so that they can make a decision for you is not a smart idea. Right. And that's exactly what it is. And then when they don't have money, they borrow it from the Federal Reserve promising the Federal Reserve that you will pay the Federal Reserve back, not them.
Right. Man, let's do one more and then we'll go ahead and get to the article.
You haven't solved the problem. Come back to us in 6 months and you're not going to get paid in the meantime. Paul B.O.T. You support libertarianism, taking down government and anti-establishment, yet you're all about collectivism. That's a hell of an oxymoron if ever I did hear one. Do you even know what egalitarianism is? Lol. Yeah, it's like people are equal. I'm not into that American libertarianism where you get to have a gun and be a selfish cunt. I'm not into that. That's terrible. No, collectivism. I think that you should be allowed to, be an individual. Who's going to stop you? Do what you want, where you want, go where you want, all of that kind of stuff. But I think that power should be devolved, as I just said to the last person.
So I just wanted to touch on that. I went ahead and played that because his view on what libertarianism is obviously
distorted.
Ignorant. Yeah. It's ignorant. It's distorted absolutely because it's not. Libertarians are far from anything. Far from being selfish. What we believe in is that basically that any kind of welfare, if you will, that's given via our tax dollars should never be done so at the barrel of a gun, because right now that's the way that the system is.
Yep.
You're taxed for this, you're taxed for that, you're taxed for the other thing. A large portion of that is taxed to go towards welfare system, entitlement systems, whatever you want to call them. And if you don't do that, then we're going to lock you up or kill you. We're being forced to give, whether we like it or not. Now, that being said, you're a good person. I know you're a good person. I know you. I know you're a good person. I know I'm a good person. I'm a charitable person. I would always give anything that I have of my treasure here on earth to a person in need, as I know you would as well. Yeah. However, I don't agree with being forced to have to do that. And when you create an environment that forces you to give what you have that you work for, it creates an air of animosity and cause more harm than good. You take people that are really in desperate need, who aren't necessarily lazy people, but they either got a lousy lot in life, and so they don't have as abundantly as maybe we do, so they need a little bit of hand up. And I agree with that 100%. Absolutely, I would be happy to give you a hand up. But if you're going to force me to do it, well, now, as far as I'm concerned, you're an enemy, and I no longer have empathy for you.
Well, I mean, there's two ways to go with that. First, I want to say that I like Russell Brand very much as an actor, and actually his thought process. I do think that his view of libertarianism for Americans is distorted. It has nothing to do with being selfish, because we want the same exact thing. We want the power to be, kind of equalized. We don't believe in an authoritarian or an ultimate power of sorts that can just tell you what to do when you do it. That's completely, off track. We want the same exact thing. But on the other hand, democracy, going back to the 51-49%, the 51% vote that anybody of Jewish culture should be placed into a concentration camp. That makes it right?
Right, exactly.
And I do have a problem with that, because there is no authority that should be able to imply or enforce that. Mm-hmm. So that's where we come in as libertarians, that we think, look, just respect me, leave me alone, don't force me to do anything, period. And, the taxes that we have here in America, that wasn't even legal like some years ago. Right. I'm not going like 20, but, in the early days, that's something, the income taxes and all that were imposed way later on. Right. And America functioned just fine. I mean, they drove out England, for Pete's sake. So how is that possible? Taxes? No, people believed in something, they stood up for something, and they collectively came together. So the collective part, I agree in completely. Collectively, we have to know what we're talking about and what we believe in. And, this is going to become a boring episode, but know what you believe in. You have to have some philosophy to live day to day. Otherwise, you're like a sheep, just looking for your next meal and eating.
Right. On that note, let's go ahead and get to the article, which again is posted on talkfreedom.webs.com, written by our friend and contributing writer, Dr. Richard Pomante. The name of this article is Rebel with a Cause.
I'm not going to read this with an accent, so it's more interesting.
We're not going to read the entire article here, because you can go ahead and check it out on the website, again, talkfreedom.webs.com.
All right, well, I'm going to read it with an accent, because I did not hear that. All right, that's not a very
horrible accent.
I don't know. It's like a speech impediment. Allow me to reintroduce myself. Yes, that is from a Jay-Z song. My name is Dr. Richard Pomante. I am soon to be a licensed chiropractor and a certified acupuncturist in the state of Florida. I'm also a very pro-Constitution person who believes that personal freedoms and liberties should, in most cases, prevail over the, quote, securities and the, quote, protections that the government can offer. It's important to bring up that throughout human history, governments have been responsible for more deaths than any other entity. However, I did not always feel like this. I was not always this freedom-loving, anti-system rebel that I am today. I used to be a protector of the status quo. I was in the past a noble guardian of the state that shot down nearly every notion of a conspiracy theory and believed that false propaganda that the mass media bestowed upon the country. Furthermore, I was extremely biased on the subject of politics. I was a Democrat and placed all my faith in the mission and platform of the Democrats. I thought at the time that they were the party of progression because they supported causes that seemed to expand civil liberties, promote tolerance, equality, and promote a peaceful foreign policy. I also thought that when it came to corporate greed and corruption, while I knew that Democrats were somewhat corrupt, I thought that they were less corrupt than the Republicans. And I came to realize that it's all BS and that both parties are equally corrupt. It's the basic lesser of two evils argument. Although I do accept that this flawed way of thinking was in some aspect my own fault, this type of thinking on my part was due to a fundamental flaw, or rather a void that exists in our understanding of how we arrive to our current self-realization. The purpose of my article is to be open with the reader about how I became the person that I am today, and that everything is multifactorial, and that the sum of our experience leads us to our current status of being. To understand the evolution of thinking to my current understanding of the world, it's necessary to go far back into my childhood. Whether we realize it or not, we're all a product of our environment. I grew up in a broken home. My parents divorced when I was 10. Neither of them was into politics at all. My brothers and I weren't poor, but we weren't well off either. We always had enough to eat, but I never got designer clothes or the latest technological gadgets, because quite frankly, we didn't have the money for it, nor did I really care for such things in the first place. I was happy with just being able to eat enough to survive and drive around in my 1995 Mazda 626, play sports, and smoke weed. Yeah, I smoked a lot of marijuana in high school. It should be noted that I don't partake in marijuana anymore. However, I do support decriminalization of it. I went to predominantly minority, Black, Latino, etc., public schools my entire life. Honestly, I didn't have it rough in high school at all, despite being one of the few white people at my high school. I also never faced any racial tensions while I was in high school. I think it's because I just got along with everybody, and people were more mature in high school than in middle school. In middle school, it was very tough for me. I was one of the smaller kids, and I was brutally singled out by lots of bullies. I was always one of the more smart kids in class, so I decided that when it was time for me to go to high school, that I would attend a magnet program. Magnet programs are unique to South Florida, and where a school offers a special course of study to the student that they take along their core curriculum, and that it would be academically challenging and geared towards a career as a profession such as doctor, lawyer, etc. So I chose Palm Beach Lakes High School pre-law magnet program. Okay, so how did I get interested in politics in the first place? I was a student in the pre-law magnet program at Palm Beach Lakes High School. Reflecting back, I'm really happy that I decided to go into this program. I took classes that many other students did not get the opportunity to take because I was in a pre-law program. I took civics, which went into great detail in the structure of the government system. I took criminal justice, business law, and debate. In 9th grade, I was selected along with 14 other people in my class to visit the state capital of Florida to meet with the Supreme Court justices of the state of Florida. I even got to meet the governor at the time, Jeb Bush, along with other members of the state Congress. That was an awesome and interesting trip, and it left a lasting impression upon me. despite enjoying the pre-law